What is up, Soul Narrative family? This is Kitty Sneaks coming to you from Connecticut, and this is one of my many more interviews that you're going to see here from me here at the Soul Narrative. Your story matters. Your story is your narrative, and every story has a meaning. And today I have with me Eddie Melendez. Eddie Melendez not only is a great friend, but his wife does my lashes and keeps my lashes looking sleek all the time. So I just had my lashes done. So we decided to do this interview because yes, Eddie is not a sneakerhead, and I know what you're thinking. This is the Soul Narrative. This is a sneakerhead. But his story, he has a very, very compelling story to tell about his first pair of sneakers. And also, he is part of a great cultural foundation here, which I support because I myself am Puerto Rican. So here, without further ado, this is Eddie Melendez. Eddie Melendez, here you are. Please tell us about yourself.
Well, hello, everybody. Eddie Melendez, born and raised in the Bronx, New York, from two Puerto Rican people from Vega Baja, Puerto Rico. Lovingly, I grew up, and my title, I guess, or what people referred to me back in those days was a New Yorican.
New Yorican. And that still exists.
That still exists. I'm living proof. But what exactly is a New Yorican? New Yorican is, so my mom and my dad weren't together. So my mom lived in the Bronx, New York, and I stood, most of the year there studying, going to school. Shout out to William Taft High School and all the alum. Graduated 1988. I just aged myself. And in the summers, I would go to my beloved island, La Isla del Encanto. I'm from a little town called Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, on the north end, on the coast. And I didn't know it back then, but because of that experience, I learned my culture. I learned what it is to eat fruit and vegetables right off the tree.
From the land. That's how it was. We lived off the land.
I know what it is to take a bath in rivers. I know what it is to not have light.
Yes, me too.
I know what it is to not have running water, plumbing inside the house. I gotta go outside to the latrine. In Spanish, we say la letrina.
La letrina.
Yep. But I got the best of both worlds. I didn't know it back then, but now reflecting, I was like, wow, I wouldn't have had it any other way.
I agree with you because a lot of people, I came here when I was 7 and I did have those same struggles with our family. We lived in El Campo, which is usually the foresty area, hillside of anywhere in Puerto Rico. And we would one day wake up with no running water. So we would collect water it would be rain water that we would collect, or when there was water, we would keep buckets on standby just in case we had to go take a bath outside. And also the electricity was always on and off, which is still to this day a continuous issue on our island. So
sure is.
Someone help them. Someone fix it because I'm tired of hearing it. But anyways, how did that shape you growing up? How was it going from New York to Puerto Rico, and how did you match those two experiences up?
So it definitely taught me resilience. It taught me the value of hard work ethic. Like nothing was given to me.
Yeah.
Nothing. My mother was a single mom with 3 boys. There was 4 of us, but my youngest passed away shortly after birth. I think he was a preemie. So I'm the youngest of 3. We're 6 altogether because you know how Puerto Rican men do, right? My father had 3 over there, 3 over here, 2 in Chicago. So his seed was spread far and wide. But anyway, to answer the question, it really instilled, because again, nothing was given to us. We had to work for everything. And when you and I were chopping it up the other day, and I told you about my first pair of sneakers that I bought for myself, and I'll never, never, never forget it. It was like the one of the most pinnacle moments in my life. And I think back at that, and people would say, what, a pair of sneakers? It wasn't just a sneaker. It was the fact that at the tender age of 10, 11, while all my friends were watching cartoons Saturday morning, I was at your local grocery store. I was bagging groceries for tips because, there was no real jobs for 10 or 11-year-olds. But I got in good with the cashier. She gave me a shot, and I was her bagger. And I'll never forget that I made exactly $40 in coins. Yes, in coins. And I might as well have hit the lottery. I was like, yes. And I asked her if she could change it for me in bills, and she did. And I didn't finish the shifts because I should have ended it with her, but I was so excited. And I got on the bus. The bus driver knew me. didn't charge me. And we went to 3rd Avenue and I got me my very first pair of shell top Adidas. The kind that Run DMC one with the Kangol hat and Gazelle glasses and the Lee jeans. So that was me. That was my inspiration.
So if anybody doesn't, everybody should know what an Adidas shell top is. If you don't, go to the store there. It's one of the most iconic silhouettes for Adidas. It's still sold. It's sold in many colors, but I myself had a pair when I was in middle school, black and white silhouette of the Adidas shell top, and now I have the Ninja Turtle ones in my collection. So I'm thankful for those. But given that, how was it when you got that sneaker? Did you try them on in store and did you put them on to go home, or did you go and wait home to put them on for the first day?
So I was all over the place. Part of me wanted to keep them as pristine as I possibly can. The other part was like, I just earned these bad boys. I'm a showcase them all the way home on the number 2 bus. Am I kidding? Yeah, number 2 bus. Anyway, so the bus driver coming back, I didn't know, but he saw that I had the box in my hand, because this is, when you earn something, you take really good care of it. And that still spills over to my life today. Yeah. I'm 55 years old and I keep things as clean and pristine as possible. I'm that guy that saves the boxes, and when I scrub my sneakers, like if they owed me money, wipe them off, put them back in the box, and put them up and high away. And that's how I took care of them. Those sneakers lasted me 4 years.
Wow, 4 years. And so you never grew in shoe size? And
I did, but I was in denial, and I just kept on wearing thinner socks. And the shoe kind of grew with me a little bit. And so I had a pair that I wore because I was into sports, and I would play football. Handball was a big thing in the Bronx in those days. So I would have my pair to, hang out and do whatever. But then my Adidas, those were my special.
That was your special cake. So what made you because every shoe has an end, right? So what made you say, okay, guys, it's time to retire you?
I wore them until the wheels fell off. Back in those days, I didn't have the luxury of having a pair to match every outfit. They were white with the black stripes, and I made them.
Pandas are, a lot of people don't like pandas, but they're so versatile, and that's what Adidas shell tops are, black and white. They're so versatile.
Exactly. So, I just wore them until they had no more soles left, until La Lengua kind of had a mind of its own. It wasn't the tongue. You say the tongue?
The tongue.
English. The tongue of the sneaker. It broke my heart, but it came to a point where I had to throw them away. But, for me, the biggest part was I was just so proud that I earned that. Nobody bought that for me. Nobody gave me a handout. And I subsequently bought more, obviously. And shell tops, that was it back in those days. Because Run DMC, and I grew up in the Bronx, New York. That's where hip-hop was born.
The birth of hip-hop.
Birthplace of hip-hop, birthplace of freestyle music. Some would even say salsa, but that's debatable, depending on who you ask. But my sneakers, 100%, Run DMC was my
So you got your inspiration. That's what sparked you to get those Adidas shell tops.
That's it. And then once they wore it, everybody else wore it. LL Cool J wore it. The Fat Boys. I don't know if you remember the Fat Boys. He did the original hip hop beatbox. So and then I later got the black with the white stripes.
First.
Yeah. And I used to rock them with my AJ jeans. Remember AJs? Half white on one side, half gray on the other side. Yeah. I just aged myself again. Anywho. And then I ventured out and I started buying Pumas. My brother was into Pumas, my oldest brother, and I just started wearing those. I actually have a pair. Yeah, I should bring them down.
She still is a sneaker collector, technically.
I have Pumas throwbacks with the big fat laces. I have Stan Smiths. Those are by far one of my favorite sneakers. My Stan Smiths.
Now, taking that experience, how did that shape your career going forward? Because you have an interesting career path.
I do have an interesting career path, thank you. My mom, unfortunately, passed away at the tender age of 50. I was only 15 years old when she passed away. So, thank you. And that really, really kind of thrusted me into manhood. Because I had 2 options. Option number 1, move to Puerto Rico with my dad. And my dad he ruled with an iron fist. He said, if you come here, You live by my rules. You eat what I say. You're going to work for me. You're not going to get paid. Your pay is your room and board. And I'll buy you what you need. Option number 2, stay in the Bronx and figure it out and grow up. And so I did. I went with option number 2. I mentioned earlier that the Bronx is the birthplace of freestyle music. For those who don't know freestyle was the evolution of disco. When disco came to an end, the next step in that kind of dance genre was freestyle. It was originally called Latin hip-hop. It donned the name freestyle because the radio stations called it freestyle. But the original name of that genre of music is Latin hip-hop. And I was that guy, so I used to dance the electric boogie. And I was in a crew called the Bronx Breakmasters. And we would take cardboard boxes and lay them out on the street. We would have the big boom boxes.
Oh my God.
We would dress up, with the Adidas tracksuit, and we would go from borough to borough and we would battle other crews. No money, just for bragging rights. Just for bragging rights.
How long did you do that for?
I did that on and off for about 3 years because I juggled going to school, which, I could have been a better student. My mom deteriorating right in front of my eyes because my mom was a smoker. And unfortunately, hi Lulu, I'll play with you later. I'm being interviewed right now. My mom had colon cancer. And it was they didn't have all the advances that they have today. So my mom just kind of dwindles away before my eyes. In between school and dealing with that, and my older brother, Orlando, he's 2 years older than me, so he was her interpreter. He used to go to the doctors with her, and I was just kind of there along for the ride, but I was seeing everything, and it was so my escape was dancing. And I wasn't ever professionally trained. I was trained on the streets of the Bronx, New York. And so the evolution happened where my mom passed. I was kind of rebellious. I hated the world, I even hated God forgive me. But I was so angry, right? Because I'm 15. I was left to fend for myself. And I was just at the right place at the right time. My best friend, his name is Kenny Rosa, and we're still best friends 30 some odd years later. So there was a guy named George Garcia. Today he goes by George Lamont, and I'll show you the video again.
Pretty sure you guys know who that is. Freestyle lovers.
Yeah, freestyle. He had his run in salsa music as well. So he actually jumped genres and came back and maintained. He's one of the few artists that did dual genres and was successful in both of them. So anywho, one day, he released a song called Bad of the Heart. It was on an independent label called Lagosa Records. And it was him, Kenny, and a friend of ours. He's like my brother. His name is Joey. And we called him Joey Kid. His name is Joey Perez. Joey only lasted a handful of months because he too was a singer. He graduated from the High School of Art and Design, and he very, very soon after, George, which he didn't go by George, he went by Loose Touch. Anyway, so what happened was I get a call and Kenny says, "Yo, Eddie, come to my house." It was 11 o'clock on a Friday night. And I said, "What, bro? It's 11 o'clock. I'm going to bed." He says, "No, come to my house now." So I go to his house and he said, "Joey is leaving us because he got a record deal and I don't want to dance with nobody else. I'm going to dance with you." So he showed me the routine. We practiced till 2:30, 3 in the morning. That following morning, I went to George's house, and in his sala, in his living room, his mother's living room, I auditioned and I got the job.
How long did you do that for?
Dance?
Yes.
18 years.
So you were a backup dancer freestyling for 18 years.
Yeah, that's how I met my wife here in Connecticut.
So who was your longest standing artist that you were with throughout that time?
Well, me and George butt heads every now and again. And I would take my reprieve. But George was it. So I danced for an artist called Corina for a very, very short period of time. But then I found my way back. My dear friend Lizette Melendez, another amazing freestyle artist who also had her run with salsa. One day she asked me to do her a favor and come out in her video for a song called Together Forever. It's one of freestyle's most recognizable songs worldwide. I didn't know it at the time, but I was being asked to be part of history because that record was choreographed by Rosie Perez.
Wow.
Which I got to meet Rosie. She was awesome. And then Russell Simmons actually released it on his label. So I met Russell Simmons that day, Rosie Perez. It was like a 24-hour shoot in Harlem and Spanish Harlem, actually. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was part of something that, if you look up the video, I'm her love interest. I play the love interest. Fun fact, my wife didn't know that I was going to do that video.
The story.
And the director, you know, he was ad-libbing. And so picture me walking down the street with Lizette Melendez. Her boyfriend at the time was off to the side, and I could feel the weight of his stare. Cameras all over us, and the director's sitting in a boom chair with a megaphone. And as we're walking, he says, "Put your arm around her." And I said, "Okay," put my arm around her. Then he said, "Now look at each other." And we looked at each other. And in the back of my mind, I said, "Oh, shoot." And then he said, "Now kiss her." And I go, "Oh, my God." And she looked at me, she said, "Kiss me." And I said, "Okay." I leaned in and I kissed her, and I'm thinking, Maria's going to kill me. And yeah, so, and I didn't tell her, which was worse. She found out when she saw the video. So I was in the doghouse for her.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I would have put you in the doghouse too.
So I actually have a video of one of my favorite performances in Chicago. Shout out to all my people in Chicago, Harv Roman, and all my freestyle family out there. If I can get this to work. Okay. So I apologize beforehand. I used some colorful language, but I was 20. It was 1990, and here goes. We're gonna tear this motherfucker. I still got that jacket on already. It says in my office. I framed it. Look at hey, roof phone, look at that. And that's it. And that's
history there. That's pretty awesome. So you did that for 18 years, and then you came here and settled to Connecticut. How was the change from coming from New York to Connecticut?
It was pretty drastic. Back in those days, you know, New York is always fast. You know, and that's all I knew. I didn't know suburban, kind of laid back. Like, I never knew what it was to not have something to do or somewhere to go when I lived in New York. When I came here, and me and Maria, you know, so she lived with me for a little less than a year, and she couldn't take it. The whole train ride situation and, you know, navigating through Wall Street and, you know, it's just a different lifestyle.
Yes, it is.
So she essentially came back here when our first of three children, Ashley, who's over there right now, was on her way. I knew that I had to make a choice. So I gave up my apartment, not my career necessarily, but my apartment, moved up here, and that made it a logistical, not nightmare, but it was tough because those shows, as you can see, that show, we didn't go on till 12:30. And that's typically when the shows went on. Like in New York, the party doesn't start till
like 1
o'clock.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and that was even shocking. When I came up here and I finally had a night
the party starts here like at 11 or 10.
We went.
And it ends at 1.
Exactly. And, you know, I'm like, wait, what's going on?
That too.
Listen, it was 9 o'clock at night and Maria's all ready to go. She says, "Honey, get dressed." I said, "No, at 9? I said, "You crazy?" She says, "Yeah. And what do you think?" I said, "In New York, we don't get to the club till 12:30.
And you don't leave by 5.
Exactly. And that's if you're not going to go to an after party, because sometimes you went to a basement after party and you rocked it out there for a few hours and you were getting home when everybody was waking up to go to work. So anyway, that was one of the things. Another thing, and there's a funny story. So pizza, right? I know New Haven now has the title of best pizza in the world, whatever. I'm from New York City, okay? My pizza is the best, hands down. I'm just gonna go on the record by saying New York City pizza is the best. New Haven is good. I'll give it to New Haven, but not like my New York slices. Anyway, I came up to Connecticut. We went up to, she lived in Fairhaven at the time. We went to a place called Minervini's Pizza. I walk in and, you know, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know, right? I looked at the guy and I said, "Yeah, can I have 2 slices and 2 Cokes?" And the guy looked at me like if I had a nose growing out of my forehead. And my wife, or my girlfriend back then, looked at me and said, "Honey, they don't sell slices here.
We sell pies."
So what? Come on, are you kidding me? So that was like a culture shock for me. I was like, come on. So I ended up buying the whole pie, but I never did that in New York. 1 slice alone was like half of one of your pies back in those days. So, and what else was different? Just slow, laid back, you know, everything closed here early. Like in New York, if you wanted Chinese food at 3 o'clock in the morning,
You can have it.
if you want cuchifritos at 4 o'clock in the morning, matter of fact, one of the spots to hit after a club on your way to your next spot was a cuchifrito. You will get some morcilla or some alcapurria or whatever, eat it, grab it, go, and move to the next party. There was none of that here. When I moved here, it was a ghost town.
He
Like,
says it so sadly, like it's not-
there's none of that here. Now, though, fast forward, 25 years later, 30 years later, I go back and my building on the Grand Concourse, 1384 Grand Concourse, it has these wrought iron gates and it looks like a penitentiary. All of the ground level apartments, and I used to have a lot of friends that lived in those, they're all transformed into some sort of a business, either a bodega or a hair salon or some sort of business. Like there's no residents on the ground level no more.
Now, how did you find yourself? How are you? Now, this is very interesting because this segues into something that you're dedicated to on your off time from work. How did you find yourself to embed your culture in Connecticut?
That's a great
Because New
question.
York and Connecticut are completely two different cultures. New York, yes, you'll see a Puerto Rican flag, you'll see flags flying all around, but here, you really don't. You really don't. So tell us a little bit about what you do on the side to keep your culture alive, our culture, essentially.
Absolutely. So I am part of a nonprofit organization, one of the founding members of Puerto Ricans United. We are the umbrella company, or the umbrella, not a company, we're a nonprofit, 501c registered with the state of Connecticut. We're a 100% volunteer board. No one gets paid. We are the umbrella organization for the Puerto Rican Festival in New Haven. So through my experiences, I became friends with a gentleman by the name of Joe Rodriguez. His brother used to date one of Maria's nieces, which, in the Boricua culture, when you marry somebody, you marry their family. So everybody is.
Everyone that's
So I'm her uncle. I'm not tío postizo, tío político, or whatever. I'm not an uncle by marriage. Like that doesn't exist in our culture. I'm her uncle. When she sees me, she calls me tío, la bendición. So through that relationship, my niece and her ex, I met Joe. Joe is a very, very well connected man in all of Connecticut, not just New Haven, and he's very proud of his Puerto Rican roots. So one day he approached me and several other community leaders, and he asked, hey, would you be interested in forming a nonprofit so that we can bring attention back to our culture? Because to your point, in Connecticut, the Puerto Rican culture was almost dying, and no disrespect to any other Latino culture, I have love for all of them. Central, South America, they all have a right to, celebrate their culture. I'm not anti anything, but I'm pro Puerto Rican. So when he approached me with that, I was like, sign me up, let's go. And as we grew, our mission is to educate and preserve our culture. And we educate our youth. We do cultural events at inner city schools. We do a Three Kings Day event, which I'm going to invite you to.
Thank you.
So you can come and see the multitude of children that come. And it's not just for Puerto Rican kids. It's open everyone.
I went to a school system that we didn't get Three Kings Day off.
No.
It was like non-existent. So to my parents still celebrate it, but it's very common in the Hispanic culture to celebrate that. But unfortunately, not too many cities, too many Board of Educations acknowledge it as an actual holiday.
That's correct. And so, although we can't change that policy, right, because that is a bigger fight, we can instill those values in our community. And we can, through fundraisers, through grants, and just a lot of events to drive awareness. We do things like Three Kings Day, the abolition of slavery. Every March, we go to an inner city school and we give an educational workshop, if you will. We make it fun for the kids. We also show them what classical bomba and plena is. We partner with a lot of local groups that still have the love to show that. For those of you who don't know, plena is the traditional Boricua dance that dates back to when the slaves were brought in by the Spaniards, and all the other cultures that came into our country, into our land, and bought the slaves, and they developed their own rhythms and their own dances. And it really, really talks to our history, who we are, as a people. And every time I see it, I become more and more connected with our roots.
And what else besides? Because people just think that you guys just put together the New Haven Festival in Connecticut every year. What else do you guys do outside of that too? Because it's not just putting together a festival and that's it. There's a lot of hard work behind the scenes that goes to it. But in the meantime, you do go, like you said, educational workshops. But what else do you guys offer and bring to the community to raise awareness, not only of Puerto Rican culture, but also in general kindness, right? We want to instill a culture of not only that, to get to know our Puerto Rican roots, but also to share community and be kind and volunteer and help each other out.
So, we partner with anyone, whether you're a private business owner or another nonprofit organization. We partner with a lot of nonprofits, and if they're doing something and they reach out to us, we go and volunteer just to help it become that much more better, more grandeur, if we can add to it. So for example, when Hurricane Maria happened, we did some grassroots type of fundraising. And my daughter, Ashley, my oldest daughter, we actually took to the streets, and we had signs, and we would go in intersections. Obviously, we called the city of New Haven, and
we stand there.
We followed all the proper channels, and the police actually came out and helped us. And all told, from doing that effort, from getting different donations and grants, we collected something like $90,000.
Wow.
90,000+. And some of the board members, because the money that other organization and even artists, J-Lo, Mark Anthony, all those people, the news was saying that the money wasn't getting to the island and wasn't being used for its intended purposes, or at least not all of it. So what we did is we collectively decided to send a group of us over there. And remember, streets are impassable. There's no lights. There's no running water. So they made it to the towns that they were able to make it to. And whoever needed and they can see with their eyes, they helped. So food, mattresses, clean water, construction material, you name it, we bought it. And we also helped that local economy. Every penny was spent on the island for the people of the island. It didn't go through to a third party. We didn't send it to the government. Did I say that out loud? Yeah. We didn't send it to the government of Puerto Rico. It went right to our Boricua men and women.
That's awesome. What else do you guys have up and coming? Because I feel like Puerto Ricans United, not until you shed light on it, I had no idea that this coalition existed in Connecticut. If not, I would have been involved years ago, because I am proud of my Puerto Rican roots. What else do you guys have up and coming that you would like Connecticut and surrounding Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and New York to know that is coming up here in Connecticut?
So we just 2 years ago, 3 now, if you count this year, we bought back the Miss Puerto Rican pageant.
Yes, I saw that.
So we have the youth of our city, the ones that are interested, and it's a whole pageant affair. And we were blessed to have people from years past that also participated in the Miss Puerto Rico pageant, 10, 20, 15 years ago, come step up and say presente. And, they volunteer, 100% volunteer, and show these girls what it is, the discipline, the hard work, the doing your education. You and I were talking about earlier before we were recording, how you do your research and whatever. That's part of the curriculum. We teach these girls, or they teach these girls, you have to sit down and do your homework. You have to do your due diligence. It's not just about saying, I'm Boricua because my parent. No, they have to. So, they have a theme, and they have to pick a town that they represent, the roots of that town, like Loíza, El Grito, de Lares, and whatever it may be. And it's just amazing to see these young ladies blossom and really work towards something. And it really, even if they don't win, they come out of that experience totally changed, because they're sacrificing nights, weekends, they're learning to play an instrument, they're learning to do some choreography, some dancing, they break out of their shell, right? Out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because some of them do poetry in front of an audience of 100+ people. So it really is a fulfilling, for me, watching the youth work toward that. So that's another thing that we do and I'm proud of. Another thing that I'm proud of is that we also were able to connect all of the other organizations throughout greater New Haven and the entire Connecticut that celebrate the Puerto Rican heritage in some way, shape, or form. Out in New London, Waterbury, Fairfield, Hartford, we're all one big coalition now. And, we apply for grants together, divided equally. We collaborate on different events. So a lot of exciting things coming. Definitely check us out. Puerto Ricans United. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and I'm very humbled to have played a little role in our success. And next year is our 10th year anniversary. We are going big. So if you can't make it to this one, August 7th, 8th, 9th, August 9th, a Saturday, August 9th, New Haven Green from 9 to 8. We're going to have some artists from Puerto Rico. We're going to have kiosks with, how do you say artisan? I just said it. Artesanía. Los artesanos. Yeah, artists, and those are the people that make jewelry and all kind of things by hand, that celebrate our Puerto Rican culture. Obviously, Puerto Rican food trucks, Boricua, no puede faltar la alcapurria, bacalaíto, arroz con gandules. Shout out to Fabi. I want to share a quick story about Fabi's. Maybe I shouldn't because they don't want me to, but it's kind of too late. All right, so I won't mention her name specifically or their name. So this is a couple that I was blessed enough to meet, originally from Puerto Rico. They used to have a business over there. For some reason or another, the business stopped.
So I'll just edit that out. So they stopped.
Does that say it's 77 degrees in the zone? And the light turned off by itself.
Yeah, I know.
Is it supposed to do that?
No.
The temperature.
This is because this is outside.
Well, that's the outside.
Yeah, let me just keep going like that.
Okay. So anyway, one day she approached me and she asked me would I help her. And I said, sure, what do you help with? So these people came here to New Haven. They found a little hole in the wall. They started making authentic Puerto Rican cuisine, and they just love it. The food is delicious. They said, well, when we went to Puerto Rico, we used to do a Feed the Needy event the day before Thanksgiving. I would like to recreate that here, she said. But she didn't have the manpower to do that because it's her husband and a couple of workers. So I said, say no more. I talked to my fellow board members. We found a soup kitchen in downtown New Haven, formerly known as the Temple Soup Kitchen on Temple Street. They recently moved to State Street, and we partnered with them. And what we did was the day before Thanksgiving, she prepared 80 pre-packaged meals, Boricua food, arroz con gandules, pollo asado, pernil, yuca. She even put a little side of tembleque, which is like a coconut custard with cinnamon. It's banging. Yeah, amazing. You like tembleque?
Yes, my mom makes it all the time.
Yeah. And I was able to get some volunteers to come down. They were able to get some volunteers. The first year, we fed over 60 less fortunate. And last year, the second year, we fed over 85 folks that were in need. And I'm very, very humbled by that because not only do I feel great being able to give back, but it also gives me, I come home and I'm so grateful for, I'm a kid from the Bronx, New York, zero college. I graduated high school, barely. And, I fell off the path. Dancing saved my life. And through just hard work and dedication, today I work for a company called AT&T. I am an indirect sales executive. Been with them. Today is my 23rd year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. 23 years. That's almost as long as, it's actually more than my youngest daughter. My youngest daughter is 19. So I've been working for this company longer than my youngest has been alive. And I'm just so grateful. And every opportunity I can to give back, I will. Thank you for bringing that up because, that's something that I never thought. You would have asked me 15 years ago if I would ever do some sort of, I don't know if philanthropy is the right word, but some sort of community.
I call it community outreach work.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's so important to be involved in your community and know what's going on. And, especially with our culture, whatever culture you're from, if you want to spread awareness and keep the culture alive. And that's one thing that I'm so imperative, especially to my two oldest nieces, that I appreciate not only your grandparents, but look at how they cook things, look at what they make, because those are the things that you're going to pass down from generation to generation.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like having Puerto Ricans United in the state of Connecticut, keeping our culture alive with our neighbors of New York, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, it's imperative because we do have a large Hispanic community in these states that people think that, no, these states are just, they're not populated with Hispanics, but there is a large Hispanic population in Connecticut.
There is. and it's ever growing.
Yes.
For whatever reason, people are migrating to Connecticut, and the population just keeps on growing and growing. And I know we could talk about housing and the lack of or whatever. That's a different topic for another day. At the end of the day, we believe in control what we can control, right? So we also do things like food drives, backpack drives back to school. I mean, we've endeavored in just about every sort of community give back program we can, and we'll continue to do so. And we're growing. So I'm excited to have you come down.
I'm really excited to be part of what, spreading not only to the Soul Narrative family, my culture, but also to the state of Connecticut and the surrounding areas from us to bring awareness to Puerto Rican culture, and that it's not just you don't have to be Puerto Rican to join us in our festivals. You can be any race or color. Come down and join us and have fun with us and celebrate just humanity and at its best.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue. I'd like to end it with this. Thursday, August 7th, Bears Barbecue. PRU, specifically yours truly, is hosting a freestyle networking event. We're going to have a lot of guest DJs playing all the hits of freestyle. There's actually a young DJ called DJ Dean the Car Kid, 10 years old, prodigy. He loves freestyle. When I mean loves freestyle, this kid loves freestyle. And we're excited to give him a platform so he can showcase his skills. But we're going to have a DJ Tony A. He's my Italian brother from another mother, but he's an honorary Boricua. DJ Tony Ray Rivera, and a whole host of other DJs. There's going to be some hors d'oeuvres, cash bar. We're going to have some vendors, set up a table and give out some information. And we're being sponsored by the New Haven Chamber of Commerce. They are gracious enough, and LEAD is another great organization. I'll tell you about that after the interview. So if you're in the New Haven area or the surrounding areas, come down Thursday, August 7th. It's going to be from 6 to 9. Bears Barbecue on James Street. It's going to be a dope night. Don't miss it. And make sure you wear your kicks.
Yes, because I will be there too on August 7th. And joining the festivities and also seeing what people bring. If you have a story, if you have a narrative, please email us at ournarrative@gmail.com. And if you want to get your voice heard, give me a shout out and I will listen to you. I will come and interview and showcase your kicks or whatever. It doesn't have to be your kicks. It could be your organization spreading awareness. It could be your faith. We could sit down and talk about faith all day if you want. But here at the Soul Narrative, your story matters always and forever. Thank you so much for watching this. Thank you to Eddie for opening up his house and to his little doggies and Joseph, his cat over there. Thank you for opening up your house so graciously. I am humbled to have you as one of my first guests and incredibly grateful. And we'll look forward to us working together more with Puerto Ricans United.
Absolutely.
Make sure to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to follow me, Meiju_YouLook1111. Make sure you follow the Soul Narrative on YouTube and also on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and everywhere else in social media. So thank you so much. I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed day.
This is what it's all about, uplifting each other, helping one another out. If you know somebody out there that's starting a business, that has a vision, has a purpose, help them out. Give them encouragement. Even if you can't give them money, even if you can't buy their product, even if you can't be there physically, shout them out, show them love. That's how we uplift each other as a people and as a community. All right.
Thank you.
Peace out.